All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. A few questions here came in. See where exactly they go. One question came in. Not small questions here, but again, see how we deal with them. And the question is, how can someone keep consistency? Right, when it comes to performing mitzvahs, right? This, I guess, will apply. This will apply to it'll apply to Jews probably more than non-Jews, and that reason is because again, there are many more mitzvahs for a Jew to do, certainly than a non-Jew. But in general, even if a non-Jew wanted to keep their laws, wanted to, be consistent in what they do, right? And let's say, they're careful in the laws of modesty. They're careful, and what they say or how they say things, right? Even, let's say the laws of Lashon Hara for a non-Jew wouldn't necessarily apply, right? I would say it's a moral imperative, right? Certainly a moral imperative of not speaking badly against others or not cursing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's an obligation per se for a non-Jew, but I think certainly a good thing. It's not not something that a person should be doing in general, even though there's not a specific command, we would say for a non-Jew. So the question really is that how can a person stay consistent? And simple answer is that it's not easy. But the first thing is that a person should do things in sound bites. Sound bites means you take it slow. You don't bite off more than you can chew. You do things, in a way that you can actually do them. Meaning that, let's say, we're in the month of Elul, preparation for Rosh Hashanah, for Yom Kippur, and people want to take on a lot of things, a lot of different things, right? So, because they want to show God, they're working hard, they're trying. So they bite off a heck of a lot more than they can chew. And what's the evil inclination, Mr. Ass, going to do? It's going to slam you. It's going to, once a person makes a mistake, once they can't do it, what's the evil inclination going to say? You can't do it. You're not consistent. Jews won't accept you anyway. You're going to be a second-class citizen. You're a nothing, right? The evil inclination, very good. Very good at what it does. Doesn't need me to agree with him over here. Right? But you take things, even if a person is in the process of conversion or is a JIT, Jew in training, whatever you want to call them, and you take things slowly, but you take things in a way that even if it's hard, you start to do. And even if you make mistakes, okay, it's part of the process, but you got to start somewhere. So, I can sit here for the next 2 hours, scream, about musar and ethics, and that's not going to get someone to be consistent. Person has to realize what they have to do. See, as a non-Jew, it's a lot easier. It's 10 times easier, 100 times easier. Why? Because the evil inclination for them is not strong at all, right? Definitely not strong at all. So why do I say that? Because right now, someone as a non-Jew doesn't have obligation to keep Torah mitzvahs. They're not Jewish. So they feel like praying, fine. They keep kosher in a haphazard way. Technically, nothing wrong with it. They're not Jewish. But if a person wants to walk the walk and talk the talk, okay, that's what you got to do. You gotta put your best foot forward. I wouldn't say take everything on at once. You can't do that. right? But at the same time, the evil inclination is a lot weaker, much, much weaker. Now, someone's going to say, come on, I have an evil inclination for this and for that and the other thing, and it's hard getting up and praying. I don't speak Hebrew well, and I can't say the words and whatever, a lot of different things. Job is a whole nother thing. But see, that's not the evil inclination over here. Why is it not? Why do I say it's not the evil inclination? People will be a little bit shocked. They say, come on, I have these evil inclinations. Yeah, when it comes to performing mitzvahs and speaking, let's say, not speaking Lashon Hara, right? Not cursing, keeping other mitzvahs, whatever they are. What's the obligation for a non-Jew in these cases? Zero. They don't have to keep them. These things that don't apply. So why do I say it's not an evil inclination? Because they're not obligated. Once you got the obligation, once a person crosses over, they go to the mikvah, different ballgame. So you're going to say, if the evil inclination is nothing now, and I'm having a lot of difficulty now, what's going to be in the future? That would be the $1.5 million question, right? If it's hard and really hard right now, how can it be? How can it be? Coffman's language, you're all toast. Ain't gonna help. It's 10 times easier right now because you have no obligation. You want to keep kosher, you don't want to keep kosher. Doesn't matter right now. It's all practice. It's all practice. Once it's for real, the evil inclination goes to work. Now, does that mean a person doesn't have to work on certain things? Not saying that. But it's a totally different evil inclination. Right? I should have started out by saying, when is the evil inclination not like the evil inclination? Before and after. Before and after conversion. See, a person who's already Jewish, and they start, becoming religious, they don't have it easy at all. From any side. Why not? Because you're already Jewish. You already got that extra spark in the soul. Once you already have that spark in the soul, guess what? You want to pray? You got to pray 3 times a day. You got to do other things. It's going to be a lot harder. A lot harder. What's the first thing about tshuva? Someone who's coming back to Judaism, born a Jew. What's the first thing they should do? Start keeping kosher. That's what they have to do. That's what you got to do. Why? Because non-kosher meats, non-kosher food affects the person differently. Affects the Jew in a different way. Doesn't affect a non-Jew. We mentioned this many times. A non-Jew is never going to keep something. There's no benefits. So a non-Jew can eat whatever they want. Doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect them, says the Kli Yakar, Leviticus chapter 11. So if it's not going to affect them, except for the bats in Wuhan, but okay, we're not going to go there. They can eat any creepy crawly thing, doesn't affect them. But over here, by a Jew it does, even though science hasn't proven it. We don't really care if science has proven it or not. It's going to cause the Jew to be dull. Their heart's going to be dull. It's going to be harder for them to hear anything about Torah mitzvahs. That's why 90% of world Jewry has, they don't know anything. And they're very apathetic. For a Jew to not keep kosher, that makes them apathetic. Makes them apathetic to Torah. That's what it does. It makes Torah much harder to enter. They don't want to listen to Torah. They want to keep mitzvahs. So for a non-Jew, right now, in the process of conversion, as hard as you may think it is, right, in doing certain things, whatever they may be, prayer is a good one, because prayer is something that always needs to be strengthened. And I get this all the time. People say, yeah, if I went to synagogue, didn't know what's going on. People stand, people sit, they bow, they this, they that. No idea what's going on. Totally lost. Came to Torah and mitzvahs. If I want to pray to the real God, the true God, I don't even know how to pray. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know which way to hold up the prayer book. Problem. Not going to say not. It gets easier over time. Definitely gets easier over time. But it takes time. So, a person can't beat themselves up and say, come on, it's been 2 weeks, it's been a month. You got to give yourself a good amount of time. Someone, a former student of mine just converted yesterday. They told me it was one of the hardest things, and they still battle with is Hebrew. Saying prayers. And it's hard. They've been at this for 4 years. So a person got to cut themselves some slack. But obviously the rabbinical court wants to see at least they can follow in a prayer. They can say the prayers in Hebrew. They can say blessings in Hebrew. Right? They know how to bench. They know how to say grace after meals. But see, bottom line, when it's for real, it's a lot harder. Not going to say it's not hard now. People may think it's really hard and what's going to be. What's going to be later? When I have a real obligation. You're right. It may be harder. What's the difference? The difference is, we mentioned, the difference is whatever I do now is good practice. See, if a person really wanted to feel it, he wants to know what the evil inclination really going to be like, so this is the test. This will be the test. I get the, if you're a guy, you have to get to synagogue whenever they pray. Doesn't matter. You got to work things out. So once it's obligatory, it's a different level altogether. Different level. Much harder. Because that's my obligation. Can't play games. Can't make excuses. Right now, we can make all kinds of excuses. It doesn't really matter because it's all practice. So you can say, oh, I'm too tired. I don't want to go to synagogue. Okay? This happened. I'm going to, be lax over here. Now, someone's going to say, but that's not good because that sets a bad precedent. Okay? Maybe. And it's hard to undo bad habits. Good. That's what the whole month of Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur is all about. Undoing bad habits. So you say, shouldn't I practice it, to the best of my ability right now? Yeah. But see, it's still not the same. And people may say I'm nuts for saying such a thing, but it's not the same. Because right now you have no obligation. Right now, it's a JIT, keep whatever you want. Some people keep more, some people keep less. Whatever it is. But bottom line, no obligation. If I have no obligation, what does that mean? It means that it's not as, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? It's not as potent. If a person knows they have to pray 3 times a day, or let's say better, someone's in mourning, let's say a parent died. So a guy has to pray, he has to lead services, except on Shabbos or festival, 3 times a day. Not just enough to pray with 10 men. You got to lead services, right? You got to say the mourner's prayer, etc. Your whole life for that year changes, or 11 months, whatever, changes. But don't I have an obligation to pray every day, 3 times a day? 100%. But when you have to be the one to lead, you got to find a place to be able to do it. So your whole day revolves around you leading the congregation. But guess what? Other people in your same shoes, right? There are other people who also have to do it because they're in mourning. You're not the only one. So it could be you could split it with somebody, different things, whatever. But normally, most people to elevate the soul, they'll pray themselves. They'll lead the service. And you got to go to a place where you're the one who's leading. Someone else could push you off. There are hierarchies over here we're not going to get into, but that changes the whole way you look at everything. Because okay, you can say, okay, I can pray later here. I can do this, I can do that. But you got to make sure you're the one leading. Right? As long as you know what you're doing. But at the same time, that changes your whole perspective. So my father died 8 years ago. Now I was the only one doing anything in my family, so there was a lot of pressure. Multiply that pressure by infinity, because I was the only one doing anything. So therefore, I had to make sure, go the extra mile to make sure. But that changes the whole perspective. 100%. And that really should be our perspective anyway. Right? A guy has to pray with a minion 3 times a day. He has to pray with 10 men. Doesn't apply to women. If she wants to, she can. It's no obligation. For a woman, absolutely no obligation. She's got no obligation to pray. It's true. But not the same obligation as a guy. Good. Right? So a guy out there, he's got to go. Got to take time off. Right? To pray. In the morning, got to get up early. A lot of places, they pray really early, except on Sunday and Shabbos. Because you got to get to work. Right? They got to get up early. But I went to sleep too late. Okay. God's like, I don't care. Get up. You got to pray. I'll give you 2 hours of sleep to keep my schedule. It's your problem. It's your problem. Okay? You're more awake, less awake. God says, I don't care. You have to go pray. There are things you got to do that are obligatory. Can't push off. Holidays you got to keep. Got to take off. Got to have meals. Got to eat bread. A lot of things. See, when it's quote unquote make believe, okay, try and do this, try and do that, try and do the other thing. You give your best effort what you can do. When it's for real, the best effort not enough. You got to do it. Comes the 15th of Nisan, by hook or by crook, your house and everywhere you had any leavened products. Your car, the office has to be clean. You have to be ready for Passover. No matter what happens, what's going on in your life, you got to be ready. You got to know what to do. Practice is good. When it's for real, totally different. It's a totally different ballgame. It's a lot easier right now. 10 times easier. Because the obligation's not as great. The obligation's not there at all. But in preparing, okay, I would say you got to prepare. You got to know what to do. Then you got to go full throttle. But that's only, when you're going to live in a community. When you live in a community, it's a different ballgame. When you're not living in a community, okay, we can cut you a lot of slack. You made blessings here, blessings there. You prayed, you didn't, this, that. We cut you a lot of slack. But what's the bottom line? You got to know what to do. You got to prepare. That's the only way. Right? But right now, as we mentioned it's a lot easier. 10 times easier. Because there's no obligation. Once you have you have an obligation to keep the Noahide laws. That's true. There's a lot to do for that also. But being the Jews, it's a totally different thing. A lot more to do. Heck of a lot more to do. So if that's the case, I have to know what to do. I got to prepare. But see, when I have that absolute obligation, preparation is different. What I do is different. When I don't have the obligation, I can slack. I can slack off over here. And you wouldn't be punished. No punishment. Right? As long as not anything forbidden. What I'm pointing out is it's a lot easier. Heck of a lot easier. Because once you have that obligation, evil inclination revs it up a little bit more. Let's say a lot more. And it could be by certain things they won't change. Certain things in a person's life, dealing with family, other things, that won't change. After conversion. Maybe it'll get worse. I don't know. Right? But it won't change. So certain things will stay constant. But see, when there's a major difference when I have an obligation to do something and whether I'm just practicing to do something. So a huge difference. And the way the evil inclination is going to attack is also different. Right? It doesn't mean there's no evil inclination at all. We're not saying that. Person's still going to have an evil inclination. No question. But see, when a person now is obligated to do things, that's a different thing. Right? That's a different mentality altogether. Because I could squirm out of doing things, not even squirm. I don't have an obligation. So I can make excuses why I don't do it. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. But a person will say, if I do that on a regular basis, I'm going to be lazy. It's going to be much harder. Could be. Could very well be. But you got to start somewhere. Right? So the question now, get to the question here. Right? Question over here is, how do you keep consistency? Now, I would say like this. If it comes to prayer, you got to take time every day. You got to take time every day in order to pray. All right, the morning. Okay, let's say you don't have a lot of time. Let's say you don't have a lot of time. Morning can take normally, someone who knows how to read Hebrew properly, say 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending. Maybe a little bit longer. And if you have trouble reading, it'll take you a lot longer. A lot longer. So they say, well, I have to get up really early. Well, you can't get up too early. There's certain things you can't say so early when it's dark. But okay, even without that. So a person, if you know it's going to take you much longer, only say fewer prayers. Say the most important prayers. Right? Say the blessings over the Torah. Say the blessings in the morning. Say the Shema. Say the Shemona Esrei. That's enough. You want to say, there are Psalms there to say from Psalm 145 to 150. If you have more time, you can add that. You can add other things. But be consistent and be able to bite off what you can chew. In other words, do less with more meaning. And then build it up. But again, so you're gonna have to plan this. If a person has to go to work, then how much time does it take you to get there? And then you have to estimate how long it's going to take you. How long it's going to take you to pray. Or let's say you pray some before, let's say you take a break at work, you can pray some more then. Right? If you don't have enough time. But you got to think in your mind, okay, how am I going to do this? How is this going to work out? And you got to make a plan. That's the only way. Right? So if a person says, yeah, I'm going to pray every day, make the prayers at the same time. Same time in the morning, same time in the afternoon. That gets you into a rhythm. Now, sometimes the person's schedule changes. Okay. So if it changes, you got to make adjustments. If, let's say, normally the afternoon service, you pray at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, you have to be somewhere. So you got to make a different time. But it's got to be before sundown. So again, you got to think ahead. See, all these laws, that's what it's all about. It's thinking before I act. Food, I want to eat. What's the blessing? I got to think before I make the blessing. Make sure I know what the blessing is. If you don't know what the blessing is, look it up. Or go to Rabbi Dr. Google. Maybe he'll give you the answer. But you got to prepare ahead of time. Because the halacha is, if I make a blessing, I don't know where it's going at the beginning, that's bad. If you get it right at the end, very good. But really at the outset, when I say God's name, I have to know where that blessing's going. I have to know if it's a banana, the blessing's Brei Pri Adam. And even though it looks like a tree, it's really considered something grows in the ground, it's Brei Pri Adam. So when I say God's name, I have to know that. But what if I thought, let's say, it grows from a tree, right? So instead of saying Brei Pri Adam, a person's thinking Brei Pri Eitz, they say God's name, and they have that in mind, then they realize it's Brei Pri Adam, you fulfill your obligation, right? You make the right blessing. You fulfill your obligation. Only problem is, you didn't fulfill it the way 100% you should have. Because when you made the blessing, you have in mind to make the right one. But at the beginning, you make the blessing, I know where it's going. Not enough just to get it right. You will fulfill your obligation. Right? But you didn't start out the right way. So that's a problem. Definitely a problem. So it changes the way we think about food, changes the way we think about what I'm supposed to think about, not think about, what I'm supposed to speak about, what I'm supposed to say. It changes everything. Whole perspective. So that's a good thing. But I have to put my mind into it. I have to live it, right? So simple answer would be, how can someone keep consistency? You got to live it. You got to live it like it's real. Even if you're just practicing. Because if you don't put that level of seriousness on it, then it's a hodgepodge. Feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. You're right. I have no obligation right now. Okay? No obligation. But you want to get to a point where, a person's going to move into a community, it's a different issue. I got to take it a lot more seriously. So a person should be living it to whatever level they can. That's how you get consistency. Sometimes it's better, sometimes not. Right? But you have to think this is going to be the way of life. This is what we're going to do now. Going to get up, I'm going to pray. I'm going to say blessings. I'm going to keep Shabbos. Even though I have to do something on purpose to desecrate it. To show I'm not keeping it like a Jew. Very good. But see, you got to live it. It doesn't matter what the evil inclination does or doesn't do at this point. You got to put yourself all in. Doesn't mean the evil inclination won't necessarily try and stop you. But the evil inclination will be on a total different level after conversion. But after conversion, it's all for real. Right? Right now, you did it. You didn't do it. This, that. Okay. The person going to get punished because they were practicing? No. Not at all. But see, the only way you're going to get somewhere, you're going to get from A to B and from B to C, is you got to live it. That's what you got to do. So a person has a certain amount of time to learn during the day. Make sure, unless your house is on fire or something, that you keep to that schedule. You don't uproot it for any reason. Basically, you're dead to the world right now. Don't matter. Your phone rings, this, that. Leave it. For this hour, I'm here learning. Whatever it is. But that fixed time has to be sacred. I remember when I was working in real estate in the States many years ago, people knew before 11:30 in the morning, don't even bother calling me. Not going to answer. So I learned from 8:30 to 11:30. I had 3 hours. That was my time. That's what you got to do. Yeah, but what does it come with? Discipline. Person has to be very, very strongly disciplined. Whether it comes to prayer, blessings, learning. Now, I'll give an example about learning. So 3 times a week, so I have a certain schedule. when I'm going to learn this, in the morning, when I'm going to learn something else, this, that. So I was telling someone this, a number of years ago. And someone says, but what, okay, you're going to learn Talmud from this time to that time. But what if you're really in the middle of something juicy? You're really into something you don't want to stop. So I said that takes discipline. Because if you don't stop and you keep going something else, you lose out somewhere else. I have other things I learned. I said, yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy. But see, if you're not disciplined, other things go by the wayside. So a person says, I'm going to learn from this time to that time. Everything else does not matter. Takes discipline. Takes effort. But you have to be consistent. Person, if they're going to learn at the same time during the day. Don't make it different times. If possible. Something comes up, okay, something comes up. Right? But in general, it should be like, this is the most important thing during this time. Between this hour and that hour, whatever it is, this is what I'm doing. That's it. My phone's off, I'm dead to the world. If you don't do that, then you won't have consistency. But someone's going to say, come on, it takes a lot of discipline. Of course it does. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a heck of a lot of effort. But that's how you get somewhere. You got to put your best foot forward at all times. So, when a person has an obligation to do something, when it comes to prayer, it comes to learning. So you have to know, okay, when am I, make a schedule. When am I going to be doing this? This is the time I have to be at work. How much time does it take me to pray? Okay, got to make a schedule. You have to work it out. Right? That's what you got to do. Because if not, you'll be very inconsistent. And inconsistency is bad. Even a person ends up doing it, it makes the person lazy. That's essentially what it does. So, a person has to be all in all focused. That's what you got to do. Because if not, it's just a hodgepodge. And somebody many years ago called me out on this, and they were right. Sometimes you do this, sometimes you do that. They called me out for consistency. Secular Jew. So what was my knee-jerk reaction? What do you know about Torah mitzvahs? That was my knee-jerk reaction. Which it was true. They know anything about Torah mitzvahs. But deep down, I knew they were right. So you got to change. You can't go to sleep so late. You have to wake up early unless you can do it. And you can function. You got to be disciplined. That's what consistency is. I have to think that what I'm doing or what I have to do is the most important thing that I'm going to do at that time. And then do it. It's not about thinking of reward and punishment. Think you're going to fry if you don't do it. Okay. That's a deterrent, maybe. Doesn't mean you're going to love what you do. But you got to make a plan. Someone told me, how can I keep Shabbos? How can I keep Shabbos and do all my errands on Shabbos? I go to the post office, I do this, I do that. So I answered them. I said, well, why don't you plan during the week? Go to the post office this day, a different day, whatever. Take care of your errands on a different day. Just spread it out, however it is. Make a schedule. Person thought that was like the greatest advice they ever gave, that they ever heard. I'm like, no problem. But you have to change your mindset. And for some people, they get stuck in their routine. They can't change it. They just like, this is what I normally do. So change it. So don't do all your errands on Saturday. Do some on Tuesday. Do some on Wednesday. Some on Monday. Well, I can't Monday. I got this. Tuesday, you got to figure out a time. You can't make excuses that God, wow, I was so busy doing other things. I couldn't prepare. I couldn't prepare for Shabbos. I couldn't prepare for Passover. God's going to say, so Ray says, he's not going to care. You got a plan. That's what you got to do. And if you don't plan, you're bad. Kind of harsh, but that's what you got to do. So whatever a person has to do in Torah mitzvahs, they have to see it as the most important thing. And learn about it, exemplify it, and do it. It's not about just thinking I'm going to fry an apple for air. It's not enough. Person says, I want to be the best Jew I can be. So how am I going to do that? I have to do what I need to do, even if it's hard. Even if I don't understand Hebrew so well. Right? We all have that evil inclination. You say the same thing over and over and over. Right? Evil inclination works unbelievably well. But a person has to say, okay, I'm going to do it even if it's hard. Even if I don't understand it as well. Even if it's just practice right now. Because I'll say, if you don't, and you don't have that world outlook, then it's going to be almost impossible when you convert. I'm not going to say it will be, almost. Because you have no starting point. It's a hodgepodge. And when a person is inconsistent in a bad way, then, how are you going to flip the script here? How are you going to change? You got to think the bigger picture. What am I doing? What's my purpose? We're going to make mistakes, no question. Right? And it bothered me to no end making mistakes and other things. I didn't give myself any slack. So I was very hard on myself. Well, at the same time, this is even as a kid. Some people say, come on, okay, so he made a mistake, this, that. Okay, so what's the big deal? Big deal in the bigger scheme of things. Has a negative effect, can make us downright lazy. That's not what God wants. He wants us to be the best we can be, reach our potential. It's hard, true. A lot of things thrown our way, 100%. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse not to pray. It's not an excuse not to speak Lashon Hara. Speak badly against others. We got a lot of excuses why we could just, person got a bad poker hand, he just folds. It's very easy to fold in this world. Very, very easy. Because we've all been thrown to the wolves at some point. We've all had it really hard. And some more, some less, whatever it is. Not going to downplay what anyone's gone through. See, we can make excuses very easily and say, look, this happened. The other thing happened. Okay. God says, yeah, it happened because I wanted it to happen this way, that way. Or you did it to yourself, whatever it is. There are no excuses. We have no excuses here. Now comes Rosh Hashanah, God's going to look and judge us however he's going to do it. Judgment through mercy. At the same time, we're going to be better. We have to be a lot better. But you're going to say, but if I think that way, and and I'm inconsistent, and this happened, that happened, then I'm finished. So my Rebbe says, you live in the past, you have no future. Okay, brush yourself off. You got knocked down. You got to move on. You can't just blow it off. You got to move on. You got to internalize what happened and try not to make the same mistake. Well, we get into bad habits. We do things by rote. We don't think. We don't want to work hard. We got a lot of work to do. But one thing I can tell you for sure. God doesn't want to hear excuses. We may think we have legitimate ones, maybe. See, we're very good at rationalizing. And we may have what to say. But guess what? It doesn't matter. This is hard. That's hard. The other thing's hard. You're right. That's the situation we're in now. Or we've been in for a while, or whatever the case is. Isn't it easy to say, what do I need this for? Isn't it easy to say, God, why are you doing this? I've had enough. Why don't you just change it? Person could fold. They're going to pay a price for folding also. But they could. They said, I've had enough. I'm just going to do what I want anyway. Can't make excuses. That is the work of the evil inclination. Totally the work of the evil inclination. Right? Person gets all riled up and they just say, you know what? Can't take the pressure. It's too much. I'm done. If you're born a Jew, you're stuck. You're stuck. Can't make such excuses. You're stuck. You're born a Jew. I'm not born a Jew. You got a lot of options. I mean, you got one option. You got to be a Noahide. Fine. But, plenty of things you can do. It's not a problem. I don't have to worry about it. It's a lot easier. A lot easier path. In many ways. So I would say like this also. How do you keep consistency? Think about what God wants for you in the world. Think about the bigger pictures we said. Think about what I need to accomplish. And say, okay, it's hard. Open the book, start praying. Right? Start going through the word. Start making blessed. This is what you got to do. You got to start somewhere. But I would agree when you zigzag and you're inconsistent, that is going to be very hard to overcome. Now, I tell you, got to look at the bigger picture. Not that you're going to fry in hell forever. Right? The bigger picture is, what am I here for? What am I doing? What is my goal? Think of a mitzvah drawing close to God. Whether I understand it more or not, doesn't matter. Everything I do, right? Even come sukkah, I take my lulav and I'm shaking it like this and I'm shaking it like that. Right? And I'm having all this influence and this and that. We may not fully understand it, right? But that's drawing me close. Not speaking Lashon Hara. When I have an absolute right to say something against someone. That's drawing me close. That's making me more holy. Even if I thought the bad thing, still making me holy. I didn't say it. There are a lot of levels here. But when I think about every mitzvah is a diamond. It's gold. That's the only thing worth anything today is gold. So if that's true, then I should be running to do mitzvahs. I should be running to learn as much as I can. Right? Because these things are diamonds. And I'm taking the diamonds and I'm polishing them. And when I work on bad character traits, even if I fail, I'm trying to polish the diamond. That's the soul. That's what I'm doing. It takes work. It takes effort. And what's the hardest thing is we always say, because we get beaten down in life. And we have difficulties. We all have difficulties. Many different areas. Maybe all at once. God's like, I don't care. Shut up and eat the matzah. I don't care what your difficulties are. I gave it to you. You did it to yourself. You got to eat the matzah. That's it. Because that's going to draw you closer to me. That's going to make you understand what bondage is. What slavery is. You're a slave to me now. God says. You're a slave to keep Torah and mitzvahs. What a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. That's what I have to do. I'll be worried about this. You're worried about that. So where's the emunah? Right? That's part of the next question, which I'm not necessarily going to get to. All right? But even when everything seems upside down, don't we say God knows what he's doing? God knows what's best? Yeah, but no buts here. You got to pray like there's no tomorrow. You got to make blessings like it's no tomorrow. You got to live and do what you need to do. Regardless of circumstance. So when I realized, again, this is probably an easier way to think about it. when I realize that each mitzvah is a gold mine. I should be running for mitzvahs, running to help others. If I think it's just a yoke, and I think it's just a burden, then yeah, I feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. It's a burden. So it's harder. So I have to see the bigger picture. And I thought, as Rabbi Victor Miller, blessed the memory, would say, verbalize it. Say God every day, 10 times. Thank you for giving me air. Thank you for giving me this food. Thank you for giving me the ability to breathe. Thank you for giving me the ability to try and overcome bad character traits. That has an effect. It has an effect because, it's like a son to a father. You want to impress the father. You want to work hard. The father may slap you around a little bit, maybe. Got to be disciplined. But you say, thank you for giving me an opportunity to work on anger. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, this, that, and the other thing. That has an effect when you verbalize something. I spoke about this on Sunday. When you verbalize something, it makes it real. 100% it makes it real. If I think about it, it's not as real. It's good to think about it also, but when I verbalize, it has a totally different effect. So I have to realize every second of every day, what I have the ability to do to accomplish. The Vilna Gaon, Elijah Vilna, more than 250 years ago, before he died, he's stroking his tzitzis. He says, for a few kopecks, for a little bit of money, I get the mitzvah tzitzis every day. Someone's going to say, come on, it's too hard. It sticks to me, this, that. You're getting the mitzvah of sitting, of having them on your body every day. Tremendous thing. For next to nothing. Right? Doesn't cost that much. We have diamonds every day we can pick up. Every single day. Hundreds and thousands of diamonds. But if a person tries to figure out, come on, all these diamonds and all the dump trucks and all the personnel and this, that, why should I bother picking up any? Because the diamonds are what makes us who we are. The diamonds change us. It's not enough to say who's going to pick up this and that and whatever. You pick up as much as you can. We're not here that long. King David says 70 years. If we have strength, 80 years. We're not here that long. Time goes by very quickly. Very, very quickly. The person realizes, I wasted this, I wasted that. Yeah, that's what it is. But, a person can say, but I'm tired, I can't learn in this. I need to fry my brain a little bit. Okay. But realize we're not here that long. Right? And if a person does that consistently, which is really the topic here, see how much time a person wasted a day. It's scary statistics. Which I heard, I'm going to take questions now, but, I heard Rabbi Pesach Krohn say a number of months ago. If a person watches 4 hours on their phone, they're not talking on the phone. 4 hours, wasting time, watching things, whatever. Figure it out. You do it 6 days a week. Let's say, good, you don't do it on Shabbos. 24 hours. So that's 24 hours. That's 1 day a week. You're watching things, not talking on the phone. 1 day a week. 4 days a month. 50 days a year. 48 days a year. 48 days a year is a month and a half. Month and a half a year. Multiply that by 40 years. It's crazy. Taking years off your life. Wasting time. You're going to say, I need to chill. It doesn't matter why. God will judge it. I'll ever judge it. I'm just pointing out. Person wastes that amount of time. That amount of time, years. If you do this over a year, you do this consistently for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. 20 people can't even imagine how much time they waste. So imagine get upstairs. Person lived, I don't know, they lived to 85. God says, yeah, but really, you only had 81 years. You only had 75. You said, what do you mean? I don't get credit for the rest of the years. No, those are the years you wasted. I don't think anyone wants to hear that. You don't even want to hear from me. I don't even want to hear from myself. Imagine God tells you wasted 6 years of your life. 6 whole years. Right? We'll do the math. Right? 365 days times 24 hours. That's 8,760 minutes a year wasted. Multiply that by 30. 30 years. It's 262,800. Right? That's pretty darn scary. Right? So, divide that, by 8,600. That's like 30 years. It's gonna be less than. It's like probably 5 years, 3 to 5 years, something like that. Whatever it is. No, you don't get credit. God's gonna say it's gone. You lost 5 years of your life. And a person who smoked like a fiend, let's say, died at the age of 52, lung cancer. Could have lived till he was 80. He took off 18 years of his life. Gone. Because he couldn't give it up. Yeah, food for thought. Somebody asks, are you allowed to fill the mitzvah of shofar if you listen to it as a record? No. If you hear it online, right? Let's say, during COVID, when a person couldn't get to synagogue, so they did things online. So certain things, you don't fulfill your obligation. Why? Because you're not hearing the shofar itself. You're hearing the shofar just like you're not hearing my voice, right? You're hearing my voice through sound waves. Even if there's no delay. Even if the fiber optics is so good, it's like better than Memorex. Anyone remembers what Memorex is, right? Better than Memorex. No delays. You're not hearing the voice. You're hearing the voice, through a microphone. So it's not the same. So anything that has to do with holiness, that you have to fulfill your obligation. Hearing the Torah, right? The rabbinic obligation. Certain things in prayer, right? Hearing the Megillah, the book of Esther. Hearing the shofar. Hearing Havdalah. Let's hear Havdalah through a recording. Or through someone over the phone. Not the same. You don't fulfill your obligation. So a simple answer is, do you fulfill the mitzvah shofar if you listen to a recording of it? No. You got to be there. You have to be there. It was the case that someone couldn't get to a synagogue on, what do you call it? On Purim. So listening via Zoom is a problem. So they were told that if they say word for word with the person reading it, then they fulfill their obligation that way. Even if they don't have a kosher Megillah, right? They read it from a book, right? From a Chumash, whatever, from a Tanakh. Then you fulfill your obligation that way. But if you just hear the words, it's not good enough. Because again, it's going through sound waves. It's not direct. Right? It's not like you're right next to each other. It sounds the same. Totally sounds the same. Right? But it's not. Right? Someone there points out, very good. Right? You got all those other things that people waste time with. Who's got time if you're fulfilling obligation? You're right. You're 100% right, but you're not fulfilling your obligation at all times. Prayer takes a certain amount of time. Right? In the morning, even in the afternoon, even at night. True? Okay. You're going to learn a certain amount of time during the day. Okay. Then what? You're going to say, but I have a chesed project. I do this. I do that. Okay. So you fill up your time. Good. And what if a person has free time? So they should be learning. Certainly if you're a guy. A woman, okay, she also have fixed times to learn. She's less of an obligation. Right? But if you're busy all day, besides work and learning this and that, you're doing mitzvahs. You're right. You don't have any time. A person will say, but, my mind is tired. I can't listen. I can't learn. My brain is fried. Okay, so try and learn something lighter. If possible. But you're right. If a person is busy fulfilling mitzvahs all day, you're right. 100%. Then you don't have free time. People find free time though. They find free time. Or they're waiting for something, waiting at a doctor's office, waiting for this, waiting for that. Where they're not really doing any mitzvahs, they can waste time. So no, I can listen to something. I could, right? 100%. If you're fulfilling mitzvahs all day, I agree. If you have a certain amount of free time, you're not. So yeah, that's where the evil inclination will come in. Somebody asks, what's my opinion of the scripture? The kindness of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord. Yeah, in other words, someone who's evil. Who says you're supposed to be nice to them? Who says the mitzvah to be nice to them? I will say, the Gemara says, let's say a person has a lot of bundles. There are two people have a lot of bundles, and they're both struggling. Who do I help first? One person, someone, is a very good friend of yours. The other one is your enemy. Doesn't say he's evil. Right? I'm just going to throw this out there and then I'll hit this. The other one is evil, is your enemy. You don't like them. Who does the Gemara say? You should help first? Right? The Gemara says you help the person who you hate first. Why? To work on your evil inclination. Pretty hard thing if you think about it. This person's come to you. You don't like them. They did things against you, whatever it is. Now all of a sudden, they're burdened by these heavy bundles. And your close friend also is. Who are you going to help first? Your friend. That would make sense. Comes on the Gemara and says, no. You should really help your enemy first. Why? To help you overcome your evil inclination. That's another thing. Right? Someone who's our enemy, we want to help first. Right? But here, if a person is kind to someone who's evil, who says, I should be kind to someone who's evil, God hates people that are evil. King David says, I hate those that hate you. I love those that love you. Or let's say better, the ones that hate you, I fight against. And I love the ones that love you. So someone who's evil, no mitzvah to love. Just the opposite. Technically, I can work hard, take away their livelihood, even in an underhanded way, because of what they're doing. There are many things potentially I could do. But someone who's wicked, truly wicked, not too many of them today, but someone who's truly wicked, God hates them. If God hates them, I hate them. And I have to fight against them. Right? So if you show them kindness, you're showing someone kindness who God despises. That sounds pretty bad. God himself wants to, punish this person, demolish this person, and you're helping him out. You're saying, I'm trying to bring him back. Forget it. No mitzvah over here. This person God wants to destroy. And you show them kindness. You're more than a fool over here. More than a fool. Because this person spits in God's face on a regular basis. Now, today, people are not that evil. There are bad people in the world, I'm not going to say not. And there are plenty of people spitting God's face, but most of them don't know anything. It doesn't mean they get off the hook. Right? Whether they do something more egregious or not. They don't get off the hook. God will take care of them. At the same time, some people have to have mercy with. Even though technically they're called evil, they don't know what they're doing unless they're antagonists. If they're antagonistic and really obnoxious, then I should start up with them. I shouldn't be kind to them. Well, most people today, why do they go against what God says? Desire. Number one thing, desire. They really believe there's a God, there's not a God. They looked into it, never. They just want to do what they want to do. And anytime someone transgresses, it's a rebellion against God. True. But there are different levels over here, which not the topic for now either. Right? This is a whole big topic. Who's considered really, really bad? Who's considered like they don't know anything? I mean, there are a lot of levels. A lot of levels. But someone would be truly evil. And a person shows mercy to them, God's going to take care of them also. Why are you showing mercy to someone who hates it? So that's my opinion. Right? And I think that's true. That someone who shows mercy to someone you don't show mercy to, then you're a fool. Then you're considered cruel. That's an act of cruelty. But again, when it comes to someone who's wicked, there are a lot of levels. A lot of levels. From the most egregious to anywhere in the middle. But anywhere in the middle, a lot of these people are like they grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho. No offense to anyone who's a potato farmer who grew up in Idaho. It means they don't know anything about anything when it comes to Torah. They don't know anything. Doesn't mean what they do, they get a free pass. Doesn't mean that. It depends what they do. Depends what level of knowledge. Because everything they do against God is a rebellion. As my Rabbi said. Why are they doing it? Yeah, technically it's a rebellion. True. But why are they doing it? Desire. But if a person attaches themselves to a certain community, that their whole goal is to uproot Torah or mitzvos, i.e. like the reform, then it doesn't matter what, if they were brainwashed or whatever, they're out. They're not much different from conservative and maybe, progressive or maybe in some cases modern Orthodox, depending. Not so much different, but my Rebbe would say no. Because anyone who's part of that movement, their goal was to uproot Torah and mitzvahs. That's what they were started for. But I argued, but even if that's true today, nobody knows anything there. Conservative movement was better. They wanted to keep some Torah and mitzvahs. So we say conservatives only 10 years behind reform. Modern Orthodox, 10 years behind conservative. Okay. Well, Rabbi would say, again, if you're attached with something, their whole goal is to uproot Torah, you hate them, you fight them. Doesn't matter why they're part of that group. Either they don't know any better, doesn't help. I argued with him a lot, he wasn't going to be budged. That's what he holds. Because the essence of what they are and who they are is the fact they want to uproot Torah mitzvahs. That's what they want. So that you got to fight to the best of your ability. But I would say most people are not that hostile. They just don't know anything. They're just doing things by desire. So this person's wicked and he's just doing things by desire. It's not an abomination now. Right? In other words, the kindness is not an abomination. But if it's someone, it's really bad, etc. However, we're going to define that wickedness, and that's a problem. Because you're helping someone who spits in God's face and doesn't care. Other people do it also at a totally different level. Because they don't know what they're doing. They never learned. They never studied. They don't know anything. Totally don't know anything. That's how I would answer that. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday. And Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has questions, find me on Facebook at Rabbi Chaim Coffman or be on Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RBBIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day.